everyone, we've got something special for you today. I've got a video with BirdKeeperToby where we're going to be talking about 10 of the most obscure ways to catch a Pokemon. You know, there's currently 800, probably about to be 900 with the release of Sword and Shield. And to say the least, the methods of catching these Pokemon aren't as simple as throw a ball and it's yours.
Hey Pokemon Masters, Callum, thank you of course for having me over on your channel. And yeah, obscure Pokemon is kind of somewhat of a side interest of mine. I have this whole Pokedex challenge that I've given myself, which is about completing the Pokedex by catching Pokemon through the most obscure methods possible. So I have a bunch that I can talk about here, of course, and a little challenge to you guys watching, just to leave a comment and say out of 10 how many of these they already knew about.
I do also want to quickly say that this video is inspired by a tweet that I saw a couple months ago. I will go ahead and leave a link to that tweet in the description. Big thank you for making this tweet, because otherwise this video wouldn't exist. But yeah, big thanks to Toby for joining me here today. And I want to also say we've got a video on Toby's channel as well, where we're going to talk about 5 catch mechanics that we want to see return to Pokemon. So if you want to check that out after this video, please, I encourage you to. The link will be at the top of the description. In Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, on Route 119, 6 out of the 279 tiles there had a chance of having Feebas being encounterable on them.
Now, this is actually determined by the Dewford Town trend. This is a statement that is just like a popular statement that one of the trainers in Dewford Town tells you about, and every time it changes the position of the Feebas tiles on the route. But there's no way to know which trends cause which tiles to become active. So despite the fact that it's dependent on what the trend is, that information is pretty much useless to us, the players, and chances are you'll go through your first time playing Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald without even knowing this Pokemon exists.
I'm honestly just shocked that this wasn't changed in Pokemon Emerald. Not to mention that Milotic evolves via the Beauty stat, which you had to feed a certain type of Pokeblock to raise it. It's kinda cool to an extent, because it made Milotic really exclusive. And honestly, I'm kind of tempted to go back and play Pokemon Emerald and try and hunt for Feebas this way. But then the Gen 3 fishing mechanic kinda turns me off of it a bit. And as a bonus fun fact, I guess since technically Milotic and Feebas are meant to be the, I don't know, they're the counterparts of Magikarp and Gyarados. Their stats are similar, and you know, it goes from ugly fish to cool serpentine fish. I guess the fact that Magikarp is overly common and just readily available to Feebas being the counter of that, where it's incredibly rare, it's a cool counter dynamic duo. But how many people can say that they used Milotic on their first ever Pokemon Emerald team, or Ruby and Sapphire? I don't think there will be many.
Okay, so next up is a Pokemon I haven't even managed to catch yet, and that is a Munchlax. But not just any Munchlax. Obviously, you breed Snorlax, you give it the Lax incense, cool, you got a Munchlax. Sorry, dude. No, the Munchlax that we're specifically referring to is one caught by means of the honey tree in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. So the way catching via honey tree works is you slather some honey on the bark of a tree, and a Pokemon may get attracted to the tree within, I think it's about 8 hours. That's 8 hours of in-game time, and I'm not sure if you can actually adjust it via adjusting the DS clock. And that means you have to slather honey on the bark of every tree all across the region and check them every 8 hours just for the chance of one of these Pokemon to appear. However, with Munchlax specifically, it's only got a 1% chance of showing up. So not only is it a grind to get to see it, but which tree in the region it shows up on is dependent on your secret ID and trainer ID. I don't know the specific algorithm to determine which tree is which, but you can absolutely find it online. But given one of those IDs is your secret ID, it's not information that is easily accessible. Getting hold of Munchlax in your first run through of Diamond, Pearl, Platinum is, well, you'd be very lucky to get it.
This is just such a strange way to catch a Pokemon. As Toby said, the only other way to get a Munchlax is by breeding a Snorlax with a Lax incense. Otherwise, you'll hatch a Snorlax for some strange reason. And I'm going to give some quick insight as to why that could potentially be the case. The way I've always seen stuff like this is that they just don't want, I guess, their previous games to be dated. For example, you can't evolve Eevee into Leafeon with a Leaf Stone, because the Leaf Stone did exist back in Gen 1. And if suddenly you can evolve Eevee with a Leaf Stone, it means the Gen 1 is out of date. Because, you know, Leaf Stone existed, Eevee existed, why doesn't Leafeon exist in Gen 1? So I think it's the same sort of thing here, where like, you know, you could breed Snorlax back in like Fire Red and Leaf Green, but Munchlax didn't exist yet. So in order to counteract that, they're like, right, well, let's add the Lax Incense, and that's how you get Munchlax. The Lax Incense wasn't in Fire Red Leaf Green. It's not that Munchlax didn't exist in Fire Red Leaf Green, it's just the item didn't. I think that's the mindset that they're going with, and I think that's super. I don't know if I like it or not. It just seems kind of lazy. I think they could have done something cooler maybe than Lax Incense.
Now, next on the list is Spiritomb, and Spiritomb is pretty difficult to get in a number of different Pokemon titles, but specifically, again, just like Munchlax, in its origin titles, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Here, Spiritomb can only be caught once, in one place, the Hollow Tower. This weird pile of rubble is on Route 209, and the only way to make Spiritomb to appear there is to put in it the odd keystone. There's a couple of them obtainable throughout the game, all from really weird places. There's a random trainer who will just approach you and be like, shh, take this. And there's another one available in the little lake that is at the very bottom of Little Root Town. Not Little Root, the other one. Twin Leaf, the Sinnoh one. Twin Leaf Town, the starting town. But just taking this item to this weird place is not enough. Once you've got the odd keystone, you need to go to the Sinnoh Underground and interact with 32 different players. Now, you can do it with just one other DS just by entering and exiting the Sinnoh Underground 32 times. It's a long haul, and I've done it, but yeah, really weird.
Next generation, they didn't make it any easier with Black and White 2's mini quest. In this, you had to follow a number of clues using the cross transceiver. Yancey or Curtis is the character that calls you, and they tell you to stand on very specific tiles in the game in a specific order, which without following a guide would be near impossible. After following so many clues, you can get them to trade you a Spiritomb. And this has to be one of the most obscure ways to obtain a Pokemon. Who comes up with this stuff?
So in Generation 3 Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald and Generation 6's Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the Regis were obtainable via a very specific set of puzzles. Traveling west from Civil Dog Town, you could dive to an underwater sea cavern, and there you could read a special message on a wall that was Braille. Now, Braille, for those of you who don't know, is the language that partially sighted people can use to read. They touch the dots, and it translates to letters, to a full language in fact. And the Braille alphabet can be found in the back of the Ruby and Sapphire handbook, the little booklet that used to come with the game. So that was really, really cool. And the writing on the wall would tell you to do really obscure things like have Relicanth and Whale Lord in your party, or use Dig inside, and instead of having the intended effect, which would make you leave the cave, it would instead open doorways to you to more chambers across the region. Only then could you catch Regice, Regirock, and Registeel. Regigigas wasn't introduced until Generation 4 in the Snowpoint City Temple, and the only way to get into the temple was once you had the National Pokedex and had transferred up Regice, Regirock, and Registeel. So in order to get that Regigigas, you actually needed like 2 different games to do it. And in Platinum, for some reason, the Regigigas is level 1, which is really cool. However, Regigigas did make an appearance in Hoenn in Oras, and that was even weirder.
In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you still have to do the Braille puzzle and catch all 3 Regis, but after this, there is still one final challenge if you want to obtain Regigigas. And I want you guys to know that this isn't a joke. You need to take a nicknamed Regice. I'm assuming the nickname for Regice can be literally anything. You can call him the letter H and this will work. Make the Regice hold a Castelia cone, take it back to the cave you found it, and only then Regigigas will appear. This seems to be a really last minute addition. I just can't fathom who came up with this, who greenlit this. This is just so weird. How, imagine this happening in the anime. Imagine Ash bringing a nicknamed Pokemon to the location that he caught it while it's holding an ice cream, just standing there holding an ice cream. I'm at a loss. Who makes these games?
So, next up, Mareanie. In Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Pokemon introduced the mechanic of SOS chaining. This is where if you've weakened a wild Pokemon, it can call for help and one of its buddies might show up, and very rarely, a Pokemon from another species might show up. This is actually the surefire way to do shiny hunting or shiny chaining in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But when chaining Corsola, something a little bit different happens. It doesn't always bring forth a Corsola. And Mareanie, the Pokemon that appears, is there not to help the Corsola, but actually because it's crying and it's vulnerable.
So the only current way to catch a Mareanie is by encountering a Corsola and hoping it SOS calls a Mareanie. This is a really strange way to catch a Pokemon, but lore-wise, it's a nice attention to detail, because I'm sure, as most of you know, Marienie's Pokedex states that it likes to feed on Corsola branches. So this isn't really an SOS call. It's a death call. With the success of Pokemon Go, the developers stated that they knew they wanted to release a Pokemon via Pokemon Go. That Pokemon ended up being Meltan and Melmetal.
Okay, so breaking down the full thing. You need your copy of Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee, and you need to be at least in Fuchsia City. That's where you have access to the Go Park. In order to get to Fuchsia City, you need to have at least got past the Snorlax roadblock on either the cycling road, or in Let's Go it's the Pokemon road, or the other road that's south of Lavender Town. And that's usually about halfway through the game. So once you're halfway through the game, you go to Fuchsia City, you have access to the Go Park. As soon as you transfer a Pokemon to the Go Park from Pokemon Go, you then get sent a special gift item box, the mystery box, over to your phone, to Pokemon Go. Then, when you're out and about playing Pokemon Go, you can open up the mystery box, and then Meltan starts spawning for about half an hour. And you can only open up one mystery box every week. Chances are about 20 or so Meltan will start spawning, and if you use a Pineapple Barrier on all of them, then you know you're gonna get a decent amount of Meltan candy. Maybe about 120 each time, and then of course you can transfer those Meltan back up to Let's Go. Problem is, they won't evolve into Melmetal in Let's Go. They only do that in Pokemon Go, and in order to evolve them, you need 400 candy, which means even if you're getting like 120 candy each time, it's still gonna be 4 weeks, because you can only open the box once a week, before you get Melmetal, which is pretty extreme.
This is a short one, but it is very special and unique. Pokemon started getting public demos with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Depending on what part of the world you lived in, you'd be gifted either a Glalie or a Steelix for completion of the demo.
Sun and Moon, of course, also got an official demo which allowed you to play through a sort of variation of the first island. And it's nothing special, it's a pretty short section of like story with a couple of trainers, but the big Pokemon that you're gifted throughout the demo is Greninja. And not just any Greninja. This Greninja is special in that it has the Battle Bond ability. It is the Ash Greninja from the anime. And once you complete the demo and have your copy of Sun and Moon installed into the game, you can then transfer that Greninja to your main game.
However, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon didn't get a demo, and Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee didn't get one until the game was released. This is likely the result of Sun and Moon being data mined, meaning Ash Greninja is really one of a kind.
So, next on this list is Manaphy, and getting Manaphy nowadays is pretty commonplace. There's a Wi-Fi event every few years, and they're like, here, have a Manaphy, and they just give it to you. But back when Generation 4 first came out, getting a Manaphy in Gen 4 was a little bit more interesting. In fact, you can still do this today. All you need is a copy of Pokémon Ranger, but not just any copy of Pokémon Ranger, one that hasn't been played through before, or at least one where they haven't accessed the special Manaphy mission. This is because programmed into every cartridge of the game there is a one-off mission that you get. You can't reset the game to redo it, you just get it once. And what you get for completing the mission is a Manaphy egg, which you can then transfer over to Diamond or Pearl version. Now, I got my Manaphy egg off of this about a year ago, so this copy of Pokemon Ranger is pretty much useless for getting Manaphy eggs, and with every copy of the game played each year, every time one of those eggs is grabbed, it becomes a dwindling resource, which I kind of think is pretty cool.
What's even more obscure is having a Phione in Gen 4, because after getting Manaphy from your Pokemon Ranger copy, or however else you got one, if you breed it with Ditto, you get given a Phione, which is essentially just a worse Manaphy in every single way. There is no plus side to Phione. Phione can't even evolve into Manaphy. This is literally Pokedex filler. This is Pokedex fluff. Besides special events, you could never obtain a Celebi until the release of the Pokemon Crystal Virtual Console. And the thing that blows my mind is that this was pretty recent. This was January of 2018 recent. This was a recent occurrence. Getting Celebi is as easy as completing the game. Once you've beaten the Elite Four, you'll get access to the GS Ball, and then you basically just bring it to the shrine and the Celebi encounter will go underway. And another super cool thing is that you can actually get this Celebi shiny if you have the patience to hunt for it. It is the whole 1 in 8,000 odds. It's very time consuming, but I really want to go for it.
Now, finally on the list, did you know there's still a way to get Jirachi in modern Pokemon games? I believe in America it's via a special Colosseum bonus disc, but here in Europe you have Pokemon Channel. A game that isn't really a game at all, it's more like a TV channel with a special episode of the Pichu brothers on it. You unlock different parts of the episode every day of game time and you can skip forward the GameCube clock, but once you've watched the whole thing, you get access to Jirachi. And then you can transfer Jirachi to each of your completed save files of Ruby or Sapphire version. I don't think you can do it to Emerald. And you get more than the two, like this copy of Pokemon Channel, now I've completed it, as long as I have the save file, is just basically a way of printing Jirachi. And every time I enter the Hall of Fame on my Ruby version or my Sapphire version, I link it up and grab one. It's at level 5 and it's just a nice way to do it, and then I can transfer it up through Pokemon Bank. However, I can have it pit stop at Heart Gold and Soul Silver and transfer it to the Pokewalker, and it unlocks a special course. I believe it's the Night Sky Edge or Nighttime Edge course or something along those lines. And there's nothing special there, you can catch Jigglypuff and Clefairy, but it's just a little exclusive in this that you can no longer unlock by any other means.
And that is going to go ahead and do it for the video. I want to say again a big thank you to Toby. We did a video on his channel. I encourage you to go check it out. It was a blast to make these with him, and I hope you guys enjoyed it equally as much. If you did, feel free to go ahead and drop a like on it for me. Any last words, Toby?
Thanks for having me, Callum.
Thanks again, guys. Soar high, Pokemon Masters. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say that.